Cup Series. Alan Bestwick joins us. Hi, Alan. Welcome to the show.
How are we doing this afternoon? Tony's probably a little less happy right about now.
Why is that?
NASCAR just announced within the last 10 minutes or so that his team has been penalized for that qualifying tech inspection violation down at Daytona. So Tony's lost 6 driver points, and the team has lost 6 owner points, and the crew chief has been fined as well.
Wow. Well, you're right. He's probably not too happy about that. And thanks for the plug or the
breaking news.
The breaking news, Alan. That's cool.
We've been doing this crazy.
It's what we do.
It is what we do. Yeah, we've been doing this crazy show for an hour. We had Ryan McGee on last hour, and we finished up with Ryan by talking baseball. So we're going to start with you talking baseball because that's just the way we do things around here before we get to racing. A huge Red Sox fan. My big question for you, Alan Bestwick, is, will Bobby Valentine make it to the end of the season as the manager of the Boston Red Sox?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think that that's necessarily the problem. In fact, if you look at it, for a manager to be brought in under the circumstances he was, looking to change the culture, if you will, of the clubhouse from a long-running and very successful administration, and to have had the kind of injury games that he's had, no other team in Major League Baseball has had as many players on the disabled list for as long a time as the Boston Red Sox this year. And, to still be a game over 500, you could probably look at that and say that's probably not too bad, all things considered. And, pile on top of that, your 2 aces that you were expecting the most out of have been just mediocre pitchers this year, Beckett and Lester. And I actually don't think the Red Sox situation is as bad as it might look from the outside.
Look, last question here before we go into racing, but fans of the Boston Red Sox are some of the most voracious fans, I guess would be a good word to say, of any in baseball. How could the Boston Red Sox get rid of Youkilis and send him to the hated, at least as far as Detroit Tiger fans we are, to the hated White Sox? I mean, Youkilis killed the Tigers for years.
With all that pent-up home run rage.
This is ridiculous. I am just absolutely appalled that you would let Youkilis go.
Yeah, well, considering that he had a young guy coming up behind him that was knocking the cover off the ball and playing lights out while he was injured, and a kid that just literally played his way into the lineup and needed to be there, and Uke wanted to play every day, then they needed to do something. They needed to trade the kid or trade Uke, and for his age and so on, it was time to move Uke, to give him a chance where he could play every day. Problem is, as soon as they moved Uke, the kid got hurt and is on the disabled list.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll get him back after the All-Star break. And it's just one of those things that sometimes you're darned if you do and darned if you don't.
All right. Well, let's go into what you do best, and other than playing hockey. I guess when we talk about ESPN taking over the reins at NASCAR, what a great place for you guys to start, other than to come into the Brickyard. It's you talk about the Fox guys getting the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. Well, you kind of have Super Bowl Part 2 by going to the Brickyard as your first race. A lot of fun going there. The racing's not always terrific at the Brickyard, but it's a great race to cover.
It's history. It's desire. It's a race that you just want to win more than any other. And, the competition, I don't see the races there as being as bad as for some reason some other people do. I just really feel like a lot of people have never gotten over that 2008 race with the tire debacle that they had that day. But, if you look at most races, it comes down to strategy. It comes down to track position. It comes down to, one guy trying to pass one other guy for the win at the end. And Indianapolis has that. And I always enjoy it. I love the atmosphere. I love the people. I love the city. It's just a fun weekend, and it'll be really interesting this weekend with all the different racing they've got going on the track over 3 or 4 days' time.
We're talking to Alan Bestwick, who's the lead announcer for NASCAR Sprint Cut coverage for ESPN coming up at the start of the Brickyard 400. Alan, Brian France came out this past week and said that, famously said that shorter races are in the future for the Cup Series. What was your take on that, and do you think it's a good thing?
Well, I think that, Brian is he's very smart at watching the world around him and understanding the world around him. And, it's my opinion that with very few exceptions, there's no reason for any of these races to take longer than 3 hours to run. When you look at baseball, since we were talking baseball, don't you think it's ridiculous when you go to a baseball game and it takes 4 hours and 15 minutes to play?
Oh, absolutely.
And around a typical baseball game is right in the range of 3 hours. A typical NFL game is right in the range of 3 hours. That seems to be just about the attention span of us as sports fans. And there's just no reason to have a race go on for 4.5 hours. It just creates too much opportunity for there to be people looking away, whether they're at the racetrack or whether they're watching on television. There's just too much opportunity, too many other things they can look away and go check out and then come back. So if a shorter race provides a more intense race, then why not look at it? And especially if that's what the fans are telling you they want.
Alan, when you start your coverage, ESPN starts our coverage of the Sprint Cup Series in a couple weeks. You'll still have several races to go before the chase is decided. Have you sat around and talked or thought about what you feel the big story is, or a couple of big stories going into your coverage segment of the Cup Series?
Well, I think that the great thing that I'm seeing about the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series this year is there are so many stories. I mean, let's just take one. Who's going to make the chase? Mm-hmm. You look at there's 8 races to go right now, and there are 3 drivers within a few points of that wild card spot, that second wild card. Joey Logano and Ryan Newman and Casey Kane are separated by an eyelash. And then there are people like Carl Edwards, who hasn't won a race yet. And if he can, he suddenly injects himself right into the championship picture, just with one win in these next 8 races. So, and if somebody in that group, let's say a Logano, gets a second win, now the picture changes again. Not to mention that the distance between 10th, which is the cutoff for points, and 11th is so small that just following this whole picture through all these next 8 races and what it means and how the smallest thing can have such a big impact. And, you got somebody out there like Jeff Gordon, wins a race, wins 2 races, not out of the question. All of a sudden, it's a whole different picture. So the possibilities are wide open, and I think that's fun.
One of the stories, Alan Bestwick, that people have talked about all year has been that of Dale Earnhardt Jr. And if Dale Earnhardt Jr. can start winning races and finishing in the top 10 and be a contender for the chase, everything will be right with NASCAR again. How much of what popularity of NASCAR falls on his shoulders, rightfully or wrongfully, at this point?
I don't think it's any different with Junior and NASCAR than it is with Tiger Woods in golf or with LeBron in basketball. Every sport has its iconic characters, and it's characters that draw more attention than anybody else. And when they do well, it intrigues people, and it intrigues people who might not watch on a given basis. His story, his name, his background. The millions of people who follow him make Dale Earnhardt Jr. that figure in this sport, and when he does well, it fires people up. I'll use that baseball analogy again. If we get to August 15th and the Red Sox are 15 or 18 games out of first, then interest in Boston is going to begin to wane very quickly. But if the Red Sox are able to draw within 5 or 6 games of first, interest is going to pick up. The Red Sox are that iconic team in Boston. So, Junior, the better he does, the more those people are going to be interested, and that benefits everybody. There are more Junior fans than there are other people. Now, you make that same case for Danica Patrick.
Right.
Whether you like it or not, Danica Patrick has more followers than anybody else in auto racing. It's that simple. And the better she does, the more those people who may not follow the sport really avidly every week are going to tune in and are going to be turned on by it and curious about it. And that rising tide, if you will, it just lifts all the boats.
Do you find it difficult to run that balance between there's always going to be people out there who say, when I tune into whether it be Fox or TNT or ESPN coverage and Danica's in a race, all they talk about is Danica. How do you draw that line between being all Danica all the time, is what some people say, and giving the story that most people really want to hear? There's got to be a way to draw that line.
Well, first of all, if anyone, and I say anyone, says it's all Danica all the time, then they're not watching very closely.
Mm-hmm.
Just like watching, a golf tournament. If they say that all they cover is Tiger, then they're not watching very closely because they're covering all kinds of golfers in addition to Tiger. Now, are they updating Tiger's shots more than they are, maybe somebody else's? Sure they are, but he's the most popular figure. If somebody tunes in to see Danica, and we go 30 minutes and don't tell you where she is, good, bad, or otherwise, then we're not doing our job.
Yeah,
right.
Because that's what attracted you to turn on the television set and check out the race in the first place. And again, there are more people who will do that for her than for anybody else. I don't feel that we sacrifice covering anyone or the story of the race in any way. And I'm very comfortable and very happy with the balance of coverage that we've been doing and will continue to do.
Well, Alan, we appreciate you spending some time with us. Charlie and I will definitely look forward to a couple of weeks from now when you guys take over, because be quite honest with you, the last 5 weeks and the one coming up, I don't expect it hasn't been the best coverage in our opinion, and we hope that it's going to be a heck of a lot better, and we expect that you will do a great job. So thanks for being with us.
No, I and my crew can't wait to get to Indy to get started, and we'll look forward to being in New Hampshire this Saturday for the Nationwide race, too. I appreciate it.
Super. Right. Thanks so much. Alan Bestwick.
Alan Bestwick, they do a terrific job on the Nationwide races, I think. And